I put up my goals for the sake of my girlfriend's future. Not only did I work 3 jobs a day, but I also serviced her like an imperial concubine, catering to her every need from washing to meals. However, what I never imagined was that as we were intertwined in desire, she screamed out the name Nathan. Furious beyond words, I died on the spot. Yet fate provided me a second chance. I was reborn. In this world, when I witnessed her hug another guy right before my eyes, I felt nothing except apathy. Because this time, I had already gained the favor of Anna, the wealthiest lady on the Forbes list. Chapter 1. At the graduation ball, I stood in the corner, expressionless, watching my girlfriend Lisa embrace another man. The man wore a victorious smile, while the way Lisa gazed at him communicated a profound fondness I had never witnessed before. Half an hour ago, Lisa and I were on our way to finalize our divorce, bickering incessantly. She despised herself for marrying too early, feeling she had squandered a good opportunity to study abroad for so-called love. Now she was locked in a small workshop working as an unrecognized jewelry designer. I felt exactly as smothered. Over the years, every time we were intimate after a few drinks, she would yell out Nathan's name. She had also surreptitiously used birth control for 5 years. This marriage, I had had enough. Suddenly, a piercing scream of brakes sounded out. The automobile lost control in an instant. A tremendous collision followed, and my world sank into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the graduation ball. At that moment, Lisa was cuddled in Nathan's arms, and I immediately understood. The Nathan she had been seeking for all along was none other than this school heartthrob from the art department. Just as in my prior life, the champagne tower on the stage suddenly fell. Crystal clear glasses and golden champagne scattered on the floor, sparking terror as shouts rang across the hall. In my prior existence, Lisa had raced over without hesitation, weeping as she shoved me aside only to get her own arm sliced by pieces of glass, creating a scar. But this time I was far from the champagne tower, and Lisa was securely grasping Nathan's arm, standing still. The two of them exchanged a gaze over the turbulent crowd. Without hesitation, Lisa turned around and departed with Nathan. From that point, I assumed our lives would utterly separate, never to cross paths again. Time flew by. 5 years gone in the blink of an eye. Who would have guessed that at a charity dinner 5 years later, fresh from a rural charity event, and dressed in plain casual clothes, I would enter into the huge banquet hall and immediately be attracted by a familiar figure? Lisa, clothed in a magnificent gown, shined like the brightest star in the night sky, graceful and lovely. She stood beautifully by an excellent exhibit close to a confident and dynamic Nathan. Lisa was eagerly explaining the jewels in the exhibit to the guests. Each piece glittered with brilliance and individuality, definitely the product of a skilled designer. Someone exclaimed, "Lisa truly deserves her reputation as an internationally renowned designer. In just 5 years after studying abroad, she has conquered the global jewelry market. She is the pride of S City." The visitors lavished her with praise, their eyes brimming with admiration. Another guest chimed in, "The world's top billionaires and aristocrats take pride in owning one of her designs. Didn't one of her recent creations sell for $100 million at auction?" It stunned the entire jewelry industry. Another added, "Lisa, I studied art too. We graduated from the same university. You have to mentor me, give me some guidance." Lisa basked in the compliments, clearly enjoying the attention. At that point, a fashionably dressed young girl curiously remarked, "Lisa, are we going to be celebrating your wedding with Nathan soon?" The mention of Nathan's name made Lisa's look soften with profound adoration. She nodded slightly and tightened her grasp on Nathan's hand. "We're getting engaged next week. I'm finally going to be his fiancé." A wave of cheering and clapping exploded around them. Just then, an old acquaintance appeared to recollect something and asked Lisa, "Do you still keep in touch with James? I remember that back in your freshman year, you were in a different department. It was James who pushed you to switch majors. Wasn't your first jewelry creation inspired by him?" The moment my name was mentioned, Lisa's face froze, her radiant smile stiffening as a hint of gloom flickered in her eyes. Nathan, however, maintained his smile, but his tone carried an undeniable coldness. He said, "Lisa and I are getting married shortly. Childhood love seldom last. She was only fooling around with him. The topic was swiftly switched as everyone proceeded to hail Nathan and Lisa as a match made in heaven. Standing calmly from a distance, I saw Lisa meekly absorb everything. My mind strayed back to our university's inaugural ceremony in my prior life. Back then, we had fallen in, love at first sight, falling deeply into romance. I still remembered how Lisa, glowing with happiness as she designed her first piece of jewelry, had told me, "They say a lover's eyes are the 8th ocean of the world. James, this piece was inspired by you. My heart and eyes are filled with your name. I love you, only you." Her love had been so fervent, yet now it was nothing more than a joke. I proceeded deeper into the dinner hall, calm and controlled, when suddenly a harsh voice sliced through the air. "James, is that really you? No way. You actually came dressed like that? Are you seriously this down and out now?" Chapter 2. The minute someone screamed out my name, "James," every set of eyes in the room turned toward me. Another voice chimed in. "This is a high-class charity gala, and you showed up dressed like that? Do you even take this event seriously? James, at least try to look presentable." Someone else snickered. "James, we're all old friends here. Why don't you go and ask Lisa to get you a decent job? A grown man ending up like this. How embarrassing." Murmurs and ridicule spread through the crowd as people whispered among themselves, throwing mocking glances in my direction. On the stage, Lisa's expression flared with something unintelligible. When our eyes met, her brow wrinkled slightly, almost imperceptible. She spoke, her tone filled with disappointment. "James, all these years have passed and you haven't changed at all. It's truly disappointing." Nathan, his arm wrapped around Lisa's waist, erupted into arrogant laughter, purposefully increasing his voice. "Lisa, not everyone can be as young and successful as your boyfriend. Don't be too hard on James. He was your first love after all." Then he turned to me, smirking wickedly. "But James, did you leave the house in a hurry and grab the wrong outfit? You look like a janitor. Lucky for you, I happen to have an extra suit. I'll give it to you as a gift." Laughter erupted from the gathering. I glanced at Nathan. His fancy suit, premium tie, and the pricey watch on his wrist were all designed to display his status. Then I looked at myself. I had just raced back from a rural school after traveling for more than 20 hours without even regaining my breath. My face was weary, and my ordinary casual clothing, now wrinkled and out of place, contrasted dramatically against the lavish surroundings of the dinner hall. Nathan was relishing in his own dominance, almost ready to send someone to bring the outfit when I abruptly spoke. "No need. I don't need it, nor am I used to wearing things like that." With that, I turned and proceeded into the lounge area. Behind me, the muttering evolved into open obscenities, ridiculing me for being broke, yet still appearing to have dignity. Nathan brushed a kiss to Lisa's cheek, then grinned. "Why don't you go talk to him? Even beggars don't turn down. Free food. He's already a janitor. What's he holding on to pride for?" A glimpse of sadness entered Lisa's eyes, but she soon disregarded it with a sneer. "Why should I bother? An ex should be as good as dead. He just showed up here out of nowhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to beg me to take him back." Nathan chuckled casually. "Come on, it was just a 3-year fling. How deep could the feelings be?" Lisa didn't answer. She wouldn't tell Nathan that in our prior existence we didn't simply date, we got married. We spent 11 years together. I was dining in the lounge area when Lisa arrived again. She sat down across from me, her countenance troubled. With a swift motion, she took out a bank card and slapped it onto the table in front of me. "I know you used to be good to me, but James, we're over. How can you let losing me turn you into this mess? This money is compensation. Take it. Buy yourself something decent and take care of yourself." Looking at the young Lisa before me, memories of our past life came flooding back. We had gone from college sweethearts to a married pair, coveted by many. Lisa had always dreamed of being a renowned jewelry designer, whereas I had hoped to be an educator, dedicating my life to promoting education in rural places. Both aspirations needed great time, effort, and money. In the face of truth, one of us had to make a sacrifice. I loved Lisa too much to let her struggle, so I gave up my teaching profession, abandoned my own aspirations, and worked relentlessly at various jobs to support hers. There was a period when she wanted to acquire a set of designer tools that cost tens of thousands. Though I made a great salary, over $20,000 a month, almost all of it went into supporting her. I asked her to wait for only half a month before making the purchase, but she snapped. She tore up her design drafts in fury and screamed at me hysterically. I should have listened to Nathan and gone abroad with him. If I had left with him back then, I wouldn't be living like this. You can't even afford something as small as this. James, you're crushing my dreams. I regret marrying you so much. You're nothing but a failure. And now, in the present moment, I simply pushed the bank card back across the table, my face devoid of emotion. Sorry, Miss Liu, I answered coldly. I've never been one to accept money from strangers. Chapter 3. Stranger? Lisa's brows wrinkled quickly. She held the bank card fiercely as if clinging onto her bruised dignity. She stared at me and screamed, James, what do you mean by that? I stayed cool. After all, my heart had already died long before that automobile catastrophe. Back then, we had been in a cold war over the pricey design tools she desired. I was the first to compromise, lowering myself like a forlorn dog. I had gently wrapped my arms around her waist from behind and whispered, Lisa, I know you've suffered by being with me. It's all my fault. I promise I'll work even harder to make more money, okay? Trust me. One day when I earn enough, we'll buy a house and have a child of our own. But the next second, Lisa had shoved me away as if I disgusted her. Her voice was shrill, full with rage and disgust. A child, James? You've already ruined my life and now you want to ruin a child's too? I don't want kids, and even if I did, I wouldn't want them with you. That was the moment the last spark of warmth in my heart was extinguished. They believe love, in the end, rests on one's conscience. I had given my best without regret. So when the accident happened, I hadn't felt fear, only relief. Finally, I wouldn't have to bear the sorrow of my ruined marriage anymore. James, answer me. What do you mean? Lisa's voice raised in wrath, her impatience hardly restrained. My tone remained steady as I said, I can afford my own clothes. I don't need to change my job. I like it just fine. It's not shameful. And I'm not wallowing in self-pity. I'm content with my life. So keep your money. Give it to someone else. Lisa's lips squeezed tightly together. She remained there gazing at me, reluctant to back down. At that moment, Nathan approached, holding a glass of wine. He peered at the bank card in Lisa's fingers, his eyes hardening briefly, but his face soon turned into a pleasant grin. Taking Lisa's hand, he turned to me and spoke with false compassion. James, you don't want our goodwill? Then let me offer you something more practical. I recently opened a photography studio downtown. Why don't you work there as an assistant? I'll pay you $5,000 a month. It's more than what you're making now, isn't it? You'll even learn something useful for the future. This way, you won't be stuck doing nothing, and Lisa won't have to worry about you. How about it? Give it a try. No need to be shy. It's a gesture from both Lisa and me. Nathan's words sounded like an offer, but every syllable was laced with condescension. I was a man. I could see the scorn and hate in his eyes all too vividly. Calmly, I placed down my plate, wiped my lips, and declined once more. Thanks, but I'm happy with my job. I have no intention of changing it. From a distance, several old friends jeered, increasing their voices. James, you're so ungrateful. They're offering you money and a job. Just take it. Yeah, look at you struggling, and you still want to act all high and mighty. You came here tonight hoping to climb the social ladder, didn't you? Stop pretending. Or maybe you're aiming for something bigger. Damn, are you trying to become a gold digger now? Nathan chuckled and interrupted. Don't be so harsh, guys. Maybe James really loves his job. Being a janitor is respectable too, isn't it? Then he turned back to me, his voice laced with false concern. Think it over, James. You're not young anymore, and you have no savings. How will you survive in S-City? Don't let your pride cost you this opportunity. This isn't charity. It's our kindness. I couldn't help but chuckle. In my perspective, this whole charade, forcing money and employment on me, was as infantile as a playground game. I had decided not to explain myself since I had gotten used to keeping a low profile. But if we were to talk about wealth, every individual in this room combined wouldn't even come close to me. I firmly rejected once more. I really don't need it. Stop insisting. Lisa eventually lost her patience. She sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. James, you're hopeless. You'll never amount to anything. Just stay poor and die for all I care. Just then, an intoxicated lady surged through the crowd. She was chubby, her cheeks flushed red from drinking. The instant she spotted me, her eyes lighted up like a starved wolf seeing prey. She smirked and slurred. Poor. If you're poor, then come to me. Have a drink and I'll give you 10 grand. What do you say, handsome? Want to play? Chapter 4. The woman, reeking of booze, lurched toward me and dropped down hard onto the seat near me. She placed her glass in my face, her eyes virtually riveted to me as she studied me up and down. Drink more, earn more. James, aren't I generous? She slurred. Laughter erupted from the throng, practically shaking the ceiling with its strength. Someone jeered. Ha! Looks like James just scored himself a sugar mommy. Hey, nothing wrong with living off a rich woman. Just don't act all high and mighty about it. That's the third daughter of the Buy Corporation. She's rolling in money. Congrats, James. You're about to become a rich man's son-in-law. Another voice chimed in. Go easy on him, Miss Buy. James's skinny arms and legs might not survive. Your enthusiasm? The mocking laughter echoed in my ears. Everyone was treating me as the night's entertainment, turning this charity banquet into a circus. I scowled, regretting attending this so-called humanitarian auction. I had never imagined it to be such a horrible spectacle. If it weren't for the fact that I was waiting for someone important, I would have left immediately. The woman instantly clamped onto my arm like an octopus. I clenched my teeth, unwilling to physically push her away. But in that small moment, she grabbed a bottle of wine and tried to pour it down my mouth. Consider yourself lucky, James. Don't play hard to get. I'll give you 100 grand. Just be obedient. The vodka surged into my nostrils, scorching its way down as I coughed fiercely. Instinctively, I threw a fist, but I miscalculated her enormous weight. I scarcely budged her. Her sheer bulk held me trapped in position while the bystanders egged her on, laughing as they offered her more beverages to pour over me. I grasped my phone, preparing to call for aid when suddenly a harsh voice broke through the pandemonium. Enough! Stop it! Lisa. She sprang out of nowhere, snatching the intoxicated woman's wrist with a hard grasp. Behave yourself. This is a gala, not your private playground. And James is not your toy. Get off him now. The lady plainly hadn't expected Lisa to intercede. After all, Lisa was now an elite in S City, a renowned jewelry designer. Even a drunk socialite from the Bai family wasn't dumb enough to publicly quarrel with her. She gave out an uneasy laugh, attempting to shake it off. Lisa, I was doing this for you. He just doesn't know how to appreciate a good offer. Lisa's tone was ice cold. My business with James is none of your concern. With that, she reached out and grasped my arm. Go clean yourself up. Look. At you. You're a mess. I met her eyes. Behind her, Nathan's face contorted with barely contained wrath. His jaw clenched so hard I could practically hear his teeth grinding. His girlfriend had recently publicly supported her ex-boyfriend. How could he possibly survive this humiliation? Nathan came forward, seizing my wrist and pushing me away. I'll take him to change. Lisa, you should go back to your guests. Lisa paused. She opened her lips as if she wanted to say something, but as her eyes found mine again, a tinge of red ringed them. I yanked my arm free with force, throwing a harsh stare over the witnesses before heading for the toilet. Nathan swore beneath his breath. But as soon as he observed the murmuring surrounding him, he immediately altered the discussion. I heard the CEO and young master of Sakura Enterprises are upstairs in the conference hall. We might get to see the wealthiest woman in S City in person tonight. She's been wanting to buy Lisa's designs for a while now. Looks like Lisa and the CEO are going to be the stars of the night. The moment he said that, the crowd immediately buzzed with excitement, their attention shifting away from the earlier drama. Satisfied, Nathan turned and walked after me. In the restroom, I had just finished washing off the alcohol and was using the dryer to get rid of the leftover wetness on my clothing, when a forceful knock rang through the door. Bang, bang, bang. Nathan stood there, arms folded, his face twisted, with hatred. A loser like you? What gives you the right to show up here? He snarled. He walked inside, voice dripping with anger. James, do you know how much I wish you would disappear? Every damn time Lisa and I get intimate, she calls your name. My motions stilled. Nathan laughed grimly. You're making me wear a green hat, huh? Do you know how much I hate you? And just now, Lisa actually got worked up over you. Do you know the last time she lost her composure like that? I nonchalantly brushed up my sleeves and cut him off coldly. I don't care, Nathan. You're 30 years old. Stop acting like a child. With that, I walked forward, preparing to go. But my thoughts lingered on his words. Calling my name? That wasn't how things used to be. Before I could go, Nathan abruptly smacked his fist into the sink with a loud crash. Then, as if on cue, he dropped onto the floor, holding his head. Lisa, don't blame James. He just can't stand that I'm the one with you now, he cried, his voice full with faux agony. Before I could even respond, Lisa came in and smacked me. Smack. The power of her hand hurt on my cheek. James, why won't you let go? I don't love you anymore. Why did you hit Nathan? Chapter 5. Lisa's smack stung on my face. My hand clenched at my side before I gently freed it again. She didn't even spare me another glance. Her complete concentration was on Nathan, as she carefully assisted him up, assessing his barely there injuries as if it were some life-threatening condition. James, you've gone too far this time, she yelled, acting all high and mighty in front of me only to throw punches at Nathan behind my back. You keep saying you don't want our kindness, but deep down you're just full of resentment. You're disgusting, such a hypocrite. I had been ready to explain. Nathan had arranged this entire incident, publicly revealing our past in such a horrible way, and I was sickened by it. But the instant I opened my lips, Lisa cut me off with an angry cry. Shut up! You make me sick, James. You'll never have me. Just give up already. I watched the two of them walk away and suddenly found myself chuckling. I fixed my clothing and strolled back into the dinner hall. By now, the gathering had moved on to a new topic. The enigmatic, wealthy visitor of the evening, S-City's richest lady. This female entrepreneur wasn't simply affluent, she was also breathtakingly attractive, noted for her grace. Despite being in her early 30s, she had already established herself as a strong figure in the economic world. She also had a 4-year-old child, however, her spouse remained a total enigma. Do you think we'll finally see her husband tonight? Someone questioned. He's been a mystery for so long. Just how exceptional must he be to marry a woman like her? Another added, you don't know? Her husband is a nationally renowned professor, one of the top educators in the country. Universities fight over him, and parents are desperate to have their kids study under him. Yeah, I heard he's insanely dedicated to his work, practically a modern-day Confucius. If that's not impressive, I don't know what is. Man, I need to start a live stream. If I get a shot of him, I'll go viral. Then someone suddenly changed the topic. Forget that for a second. Look, James is back. The attention in the room suddenly moved back to me. He actually had the nerve to hit Nathan and still hasn't left. Unbelievable. Bai, still seething from earlier, noticed me and came over like a firecracker that had just been lit. Without warning, she stamped down hard on my leg. You're just a pathetic bastard lusting after someone else's wife, she spat. This time, Lisa didn't even bother intervening. She calmly sat comfortably on a neighboring sofa, tenderly feeding. Nathan Grapes, watching the scenario develop with a cool sneer, Nathan put on a show of being the bigger man. Don't be too hard on James. Feelings aren't something we can control. When Lisa and I get married, James, you should come have a drink at our wedding. It's time for you to move on. The crowd, oblivious to what had actually happened in the restroom, immediately started praising Nathan for his generosity and grace. Nathan and Lisa are the perfect couple, a match made in heaven. You're disgusting for still clinging to her. James, hurry up and apologize. Are you trying to ruin tonight's banquet with your pathetic drama? Another voice chimed in. Nathan is being nice about this, but as their friend, I won't let this slide. Stop standing there like a mute and say something. A flood of people surrounded me, their fingers nearly poking me in the face. Someone even hurled a banana peel at me, but I stayed standing erect, unfazed by their remarks. Bai, anxious to restore some dignity after being snubbed before, abruptly pulled up her sleeves and sprang at me. Before I could react, she crashed at me with all her weight, knocking me to the ground. Then with frightening power, she straddled my waist, forcing her complete weight down on me while her big fingers curled securely around my throat. "You worthless piece of trash, you think you're too good for my money?" she yelled. "Fine, stay on the ground. Apologize to Nathan and Lisa right now." The room lighted up with camera flashes. Several people had their phones out, anxious to film my humiliation. Nathan made a show of seeming concerned. "Don't hurt James, he's just blinded by love." For Lisa, it's not really his fault. Then he turned to me with a pitying look. "Think it over, James. You're not young anymore and you have no savings. How will you survive in S City? Don't let your pride cost you this opportunity. This isn't charity, it's our kindness." I couldn't help but chuckle. In my perspective, this whole charade, forcing money and employment on me, was as infantile as a playground game. I had decided not to explain myself since I had gotten used to keeping a low profile. But if we were to talk about wealth, every individual in this room combined wouldn't even come close to me. I firmly rejected once more. "I really don't need it. Stop insisting." Lisa eventually lost her patience. She sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "James, you're hopeless. You'll never amount to anything. Just stay poor and die for all I care." Just then, an intoxicated lady surged through the crowd. She was chubby, her cheeks flushed red from drinking. The instant she spotted me, her eyes lighted up like a starved wolf seeing prey. She smirked and slurred. "Poor? If you're poor, then come to me. Have a drink and I'll give you 10 grand. What do you say, handsome? Want to play?" Chapter 6. The woman, reeking of booze, lurched toward me and dropped down hard onto the seat, near me. She placed her glass in my face, her eyes virtually riveted to me as she studied me up and down. "Drink more, earn more. James, aren't I generous?" she slurred. Laughter erupted from the throng, practically shaking the ceiling with its strength. Someone jeered, "Ha! Looks like James just scored himself a sugar mommy." Hey, nothing wrong with living off a rich woman, just don't act all high and mighty about it. That's the third daughter of the Bai Corporation. She's rolling in money. Congrats, James. You're about to become a rich man's son-in-law. Another voice chimed in. Go easy on him, Miss Bai. James's skinny arms and legs might not survive. Your enthusiasm. The mocking laughter echoed in my ears. Everyone was treating me as the night's entertainment, turning this charity banquet into a circus. I scowled, regretting attending this so-called humanitarian auction. I had never imagined it to be such a horrible spectacle. If it weren't for the fact that I was waiting for someone important, I would have left immediately. The woman instantly clamped onto my arm like an octopus. I clenched my teeth, unwilling to physically push her away. But in that small moment, she grabbed a bottle of wine and tried to pour it down my mouth. Consider yourself lucky, James. Don't play hard to get. I'll give you 100 grand. Just be obedient. The vodka surged into my nostrils, scorching its way down as I coughed fiercely. Instinctively, I threw a fist, but I miscalculated her enormous weight. I scarcely budged her. Her sheer bulk held me trapped in position while the bystanders egged her on, laughing as they offered her more beverages to pour over me. I grasped my phone, preparing to call for aid when suddenly a harsh voice broke through the pandemonium. Enough! Stop it! Lisa. She sprang out of nowhere, snatching the intoxicated woman's wrist with a hard grasp. Behave yourself. This is a gala, not your private playground. And James is not your toy. Get off him now. The lady plainly hadn't expected Lisa to intercede. After all, Lisa was now an elite in S City, a renowned jewelry designer. Even a drunk socialite from the Bai family wasn't dumb enough to publicly quarrel with her. She gave out an uneasy laugh, attempting to shake it off. Lisa, I was doing this for you. He just doesn't know how to appreciate a good offer. Lisa's tone was ice cold. My business with James is none of your concern. With that, she reached out and grasped my arm. Go clean yourself up. Look at you. You're a mess. I met her eyes. Behind her, Nathan's face contorted with barely contained wrath. His jaw clenched so hard I could practically hear his teeth grinding. His girlfriend had recently publicly supported her ex-boyfriend. How could he possibly survive this humiliation? Nathan came forward, seizing my wrist and pushing me away. I'll take him to change. Lisa, you should go back to your guests. Lisa paused. She opened her lips as if she wanted to say something, but as her eyes found mine again, a tinge of red ringed them. I yanked my arm free with force, throwing a harsh stare over the witnesses before heading for the toilet. Nathan swore beneath his breath, but as soon as he observed the murmuring surrounding him, he immediately altered the discussion. I heard the CEO and young master of Sakura Enterprises are upstairs in the conference hall. We might get to see the wealthiest woman in S City in person tonight. She's been wanting to buy Lisa's designs for a while now. Looks like Lisa and the CEO are going to be the stars of the night. The moment he said that, the crowd immediately buzzed with excitement, their attention shifting away from the earlier drama. Satisfied, Nathan turned and walked after me. In the restroom, I had just finished washing off the alcohol and was using the dryer to get rid of the leftover wetness on my clothing when a forceful knock rang through the door. Bang, bang, bang. Nathan stood there, arms folded, his face twisted with hatred. A loser like you? What gives you the right to show up here? He snarled. He walked inside, voice dripping with anger. James, do you know how much I wish you would disappear? Every damn time Lisa and I get intimate, she calls your name. My motions stilled. Nathan laughed grimly. You're making me wear a green hat, huh? Do you know how much I hate you? And just now, Lisa actually got worked up over you. Do you know the last time she lost her composure like that? I nonchalantly brushed up my sleeves and cut him off coldly. I don't care, Nathan. You're 30 years old. Stop acting like a child. With that, I walked forward, preparing to go. But my thoughts lingered on his words. Calling my name? That wasn't how things used to be. Before I could go, Nathan abruptly smacked his fist into the sink with a loud crash. Then, as if on cue, he dropped onto the floor, holding his head. Lisa, don't blame James. He just can't stand that I'm the one with you now, he cried, his voice full with faux agony. Before I could even respond, Lisa came in and smacked me. Smack. The power of her hand hurt on my cheek. James, why won't you let go? I don't love you anymore. Why did you hit Nathan? Chapter 7. Lisa's smack stung on my face. My hand clenched at my side before I gently freed it again. She didn't even spare me another glance. Her complete concentration was on Nathan, as she carefully assisted him up, assessing his barely there injuries, as if it were some life-threatening condition. James, you've gone too far this time, she yelled, acting all high and mighty in front of me only to throw punches at Nathan. Behind my back. You keep saying you don't want our kindness, but deep down you're just full of resentment. You're disgusting. Such a hypocrite. I had been ready to explain. Nathan had arranged this entire incident, publicly revealing our past in such a horrible way, and I was sickened by it. But the instant I opened my lips, Lisa cut me off with an angry cry. Shut up. You make me sick, James. You'll never have me. Just give up already. I watched the two of them walk away and suddenly found myself chuckling. I fixed my clothing and strolled back into the dinner hall. By now, the gathering had moved on to a new topic. The enigmatic, wealthy visitor of the evening, S City's richest lady. This female entrepreneur wasn't simply affluent. She was also breathtakingly attractive, noted for her grace. Despite being in her early 30s, she had already established herself as a strong figure in the economic world. She also had a 4-year-old child. However, her spouse remained a total enigma. Do you think we'll finally see her husband tonight? Someone questioned. He's been a mystery for so long. Just how exceptional must he be to marry a woman? Like her? Another added, you don't know? Her husband is a nationally renowned professor, one of the top educators in the country. Universities fight over him, and parents are desperate to have their kids study under him. Yeah, I heard he's insanely dedicated to his work, practically a modern-day Confucius. If that's not impressive, I don't know what is. Man, I Need to start a live stream? If I get a shot of him, I'll go viral. Then someone suddenly changed the topic. Forget that for a second. Look, James is back. The attention in the room suddenly moved back to me. He actually had the nerve to hit Nathan and still hasn't left. Unbelievable. Bai, still seething, from earlier, noticed me and came over like a firecracker that had just been lit. Without warning, she stamped down hard on my leg. You're just a pathetic bastard, lusting after someone else's wife, she spat. This time, Lisa didn't even bother intervening. She calmly sat comfortably on a neighboring sofa, tenderly feeding Nathan grapes, watching this scenario develop, with a cool sneer. Nathan put on a show of being the bigger man. Don't be too hard on James. Feelings aren't something we can control. When Lisa and I get married, James, you should come have a drink at our wedding. It's time for you to move on. The crowd, oblivious to what had actually happened in the restroom, immediately started praising Nathan for his generosity and grace. Nathan and Lisa are the perfect couple, a match made in heaven. You're disgusting for still clinging to her. James, hurry up and apologize. Are you trying to ruin tonight's banquet with your pathetic drama? Another voice chimed in. Nathan is being nice about this, but as their friend, I won't let this slide. Stop standing there like a mute and say something. A flood of people surrounded me, their fingers nearly poking me in the face. Someone even hurled a banana peel at me, but I stayed standing erect, unfazed by their remarks. Bai, anxious to restore some dignity after being snubbed before, abruptly pulled up her sleeves and sprang at me. Before I could react, she crashed at me with all her weight, knocking me to the ground. Then with frightening power, she straddled my waist, forcing her complete weight down on me while her big fingers curled securely around my throat. You worthless piece of trash. You think you're too good for my money, she yelled. Fine, stay on the ground. Apologize to Nathan and Lisa right now. The room lighted up with camera flashes. Several people had their phones out, anxious to film my humiliation. Nathan made a show of seeming concerned. Don't hurt James, he's just blinded by love. For Lisa, it's not really his fault. Then he turned to me with a pitying look. Think it over, James. You're not young anymore, and you have no savings. How will you survive in S City? Don't let your pride cost you this opportunity. This isn't charity, it's our kindness. I couldn't help but chuckle. In my perspective, this whole charade, forcing money and employment on me, was as infantile as a playground game. I had decided not to explain myself since I had gotten used to keeping a low profile. But if we were to talk about wealth, every individual in this room combined wouldn't even come close to me. I firmly rejected once more. I really don't need it, stop insisting. Lisa eventually lost her patience. She sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. James, you're hopeless. You'll never amount to anything. Just stay poor and die for all I care. Just then, an intoxicated lady surged through the crowd. She was chubby, her cheeks flushed red from drinking. The instant she spotted me, her eyes lighted up like a starved wolf seeing prey. She smirked and slurred, Poor! If you're poor, then come to me. Have a drink and I'll give you 10 grand. What do you say, handsome? Want to play? Chapter 8. The weight of my remarks was too heavy. Silence suddenly covered the room. Even the lady straddling me was so startled that she yelled out, How the hell did you manage that? Flirting with Nathan while still thinking about James? All eyes went to Lisa. Seizing the chance, I quickly threw the woman off and got up, dusting off my clothing. I had no interest in remaining here any longer. This area was filled with nothing but a bunch of miserable idiots frantically putting on their little plays. Someone whispered, Could Lisa really be that kind of person? Another voice questioned, Wait a minute, why would Nathan even bring this up in front of James? Was he trying to brag? James must be lying. But then someone countered, If he's lying, why are Nathan and Lisa both frozen in place? Just as I was ready to walk away, Lisa suddenly came forward and grabbed my arm. Her face was a mixture of shock and disbelief, her grip trembling as she demanded, How could you say something like that, James? You're slandering me, smearing my reputation. You just want to ruin me. How could you be so cruel? You used to protect me. Her eyes were red as she clutched my shirt, shaking me violently. Explain it to them. Why did you say those things, James? You just want to destroy me, don't you? Nathan jerked out of his stupor and swiftly stepped in, pulling Lisa away, while putting on a face of severe sadness. James, he said, voice heavy with false pain. Whatever issue we have as men, why drag Lisa into it and hurt her? You said those things on purpose, didn't you? Just to make others distrust her. She was your first love. How could you defame her like this? Is your heart composed of stone? You couldn't have her, so now you want to ruin her. That's too much, James. With only a few remarks, he had masterfully manipulated the issue, turning the room against me. The audience muttered in accord. He's right. Lisa is an internationally renowned jewelry designer now. She was just trying to help James, and he repays her by attacking her like this. Damn, I bet James isn't just after her money. He wants to destroy her reputation, too. If everyone starts questioning Lisa, he'll be the only one left who can take advantage of her vulnerability. What a schemer. Ugh, and to think he wanted to be a teacher. With this kind of character, what kind of students would he even raise? Nathan's really gracious for tolerating this. Good thing we didn't fall for James's tricks. Someone shouted, James, get out! You're not welcome here. Another voice echoed, Wait, isn't this a private event? How did James even sneak in? We should throw him out. The jeers and shouts surrounded me. I turned my frigid look on Nathan and spoke carefully, each word deliberate. There's a security camera in the hallway outside the restroom. Nathan, how about we go check the footage together? Nathan groaned theatrically, shaking his head as if I was the unreasonable one. Enough, James. If you have a problem, take it up with me, but don't bully my woman. The tension in the room escalated, and one particularly agitated guest lost control, shoving me. The force sent him stumbling back, straight into the champagne tower. The towering glasses wobbled dangerously before crashing down, and standing right beneath it was Lisa. She had been quietly sniffling to herself, too, caught up in her emotions to react in time. She didn't even realize the danger. Nathan, who had been standing nearby, immediately dodged to the side, yet he still had the audacity to call out, Lisa, watch out! In the split second before the glass came crashing down, I instinctively bolted forward and shoved her out of the way. A deafening crash filled the room as the champagne tower shattered. The sharp shards of glass rained down on me, and I felt the sting as my arm was sliced open. Blood gushed instantly, soaking through my sleeve. The entire banquet hall fell into stunned silence. Lisa sat on the floor where she had landed, looking up at me in shock. A murmur spread through the crowd. Maybe James really does still have feelings for her. Someone scoffed. Feelings? Please, this could just be another one of his acts. I said nothing. I simply pressed a hand to my bleeding arm, refusing to even glance in Lisa's direction. I hadn't done this because I still loved her. It wasn't some reckless impulse either. In my past life, Lisa had once rushed through a crowd, disregarding her own safety to push me away from danger. She had ended up with a scar on her arm because of it. That was the one thing I had owed her. And now I had finally repaid my debt. Chapter 9. An elegant woman, breathtakingly beautiful, and with a figure that seemed sculpted to perfection, gracefully descended the grand staircase. Her presence alone commanded attention, exuding an aura of absolute authority. Beside her, the chief organizer of the banquet followed closely, his demeanor filled with reverence. The woman walked directly toward me, her gaze filled with warmth. You came back without telling me, she said gently. I would have come to pick you up. The banquet organizer quickly stepped forward, addressing the stunned crowd. This is Miss Shu Anna, CEO of Sakura Group. She is also the wife of the acclaimed Professor Wang, a highly regarded person in the field of education. This charity event was made possible owing to Miss Chu's personal gift of 50% of the funds. If any of our distinguished guests require assistance, please let me know. I will do my best to accommodate on Miss Chu's behalf. Silence. The room fell into a stunned hush. Some guests turned red with excitement, thrilled by the unexpected spectacle unfolding before them. Others were seething with jealousy, their eyes burning with resentment. And then there were those who had mocked and mistreated me earlier. They now stood frozen, their faces drained of all color, legs trembling as the reality of the situation hit them. A former classmate of mine stammered, Your wife? Is Anna the richest woman in S City? James, is this real? Someone else gasped, It has to be genuine. The event organizer himself just addressed him as Professor Wang. The Zhu family is pure old money aristocracy, and George? Turns out he's the most successful one among all of us. Why didn't he say something earlier? Of course. Had they known my genuine identity from the start, they would never have tried to offend me, let alone try to throw me out. As the whispers spread like wildfire, I only smiled softly, providing no answers. My eyes met Anna's as she stretched out, gently wrapped her arms around me. You just came back from the rural areas, didn't you? She questioned quietly. You should have called. David kept asking to go pick you up. You must be exhausted. I soothed her, my voice calm. I didn't want you two to wait in the cold. Let's finish here quickly and head home. That was all. No one dared to challenge it anymore. Anyone with eyes could see. This was a truly loving family. Nathan automatically took a step forward, hoping to rescue the situation. But Anna didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, her piercing eyes rested right on Lisa. A faint grin pulled at her lips as she said, If I'm not mistaken, you must be my husband's ex, she replied nonchalantly. Since you're an ex, why are you still clinging to my husband in public? She let out a quiet giggle, her tone light but dripping with scorn. But I think I should. Thank you. After all, if not for you, not marrying him, I wouldn't have had the fortune of meeting such a wonderful man. The banquet hall collectively inhaled. Anna's words were a slap. Lisa never saw it coming. Lisa didn't react at first as if her mind had shut down, but then her gaze snapped to me, her expression laced with disbelief and something close to devastation. James, she demanded, her voice shaking, is this your way of punishing me? Is this how you're getting back at me for leaving you? How much did you pay these folks to act this out? She was desperate, delusional. I let out a breath and finally shattered whatever illusion she was clinging to. Holding Anna's hand tightly, I spoke, firm and unwavering, making sure everyone, especially Lisa, heard me loud and clear. This is my wife, the woman I love, the mother of my child. I won't allow anyone to insult her. I turned my gaze directly at Lisa. Miss Liu, mind your words. Lisa's face shifted from disbelief to devastation to complete emptiness. Had this been our past life, I would have instantly felt guilty, rushing to soothe her, afraid of causing her any distress. But in this life, she was nothing but a ghost from a past that no longer mattered. I cradled my son in one arm and held my wife's hand in the other, moving to leave. But Lisa wasn't done. She ran after me, her voice breaking. As she called out in desperation, James, I don't believe you, she cried. Because you love me. How could you possibly love another woman? I exhaled, setting David down for a moment. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out a sleek black card. Without hesitation, I extended it toward her, repeating the words she once said to me, word for word. I know we had something nice once, I said evenly, but the past is done. How can you be jealous and bitter simply because I discovered my own happiness? This is my pay to you. Take it. Buy yourself something nice. Take care of yourself. Lisa's entire body tightened. For some reason, those words wounded her more than anything else. She wanted to quarrel. But before she could, the dinner crew came forward saying that the charity auction was officially commencing. Once the auction completed, the evening extravaganza would continue. Nathan came over to Lisa, but he didn't soothe her. Instead, he angrily hissed into her ear, Lisa, don't embarrass yourself any further. I'm the one you're with now. Stop humiliating me in front of everyone. Chapter 10. With barely a few minutes remaining before the auction began, I found myself the center of attention. The exact folks who had disregarded or derided me earlier were now nearly falling over themselves to ingratiate themselves with me. At the same time, they didn't forget to cast scornful eyes at Lisa and Nathan. One person sneered, "Who would have thought James would end up marrying the richest woman in S City?" And Lisa tried to brush him off with a bank card. Talk about shooting herself in the foot. She looks pathetic now. Another chimed in. Being a famous designer is useless. Compared to Anna, Lisa is nothing. She can't even come close to matching her wealth, status, or looks. Someone else laughed. Nathan had the nerve to offer James a $4,000 a month job. The guy is a nationally renowned top-tier educator. Universities are practically fighting over him. What a joke! James, man, why didn't you tell us about your wedding? We could have come to celebrate and share the good fortune. I glanced at these people who had once treated me with indifference and were now clinging to me as if we were lifelong friends. Amused, I merely smiled and ignored them, focused solely on my wife and son. Lisa and Nathan reached the auction hall just in time to hear the murmurs and rude comments thrown at them. Instinctively, Lisa's gaze rested on me. I sat at the most prominent seat in the hall, nonchalantly peeling nuts for Anna and David, my countenance full of affection. The image of our pleasant family moment made Lisa's chest knot with painful frustration. Nathan, sensing her distress, leaned in and muttered, "Don't take James seriously. He's just a gold-digging man who married rich. Just watch. Once the auction starts, he won't be able to afford a single thing. Anna might be playing along to save face, but there's no way she truly values him. You'll see." Lisa found comfort in his words. To her, the world of the affluent was opaque. James felt he could use Anna to get back at her, but in fact, living as a wealthy in-law wouldn't be simple. If Anna genuinely loved for him, why was he still dressed so plainly? Surely he wasn't enjoying the nice life he appeared to be. With these ideas hardening in her mind, she sat down opposite Nathan, ready to watch the spectacle unfold. The auction officially begun. One by one, gorgeous artifacts were carried onto the platform. I stayed mute, expressing no interest in bidding. Seeing this, Lisa and Nathan got more confident. Sure, James had a fancy title, but he probably wasn't genuinely affluent. Meanwhile, Nathan and Lisa enthusiastically submitted their bids, particularly Lisa, who had returned to China expecting to increase her reputation. She spared no cost, sending out tens of millions in bids without hesitation. Her excessive spending gained praise from the throng, and murmurs began to change in her favor. Lisa is doing just fine on her own. If she had stayed with James, she never would have reached this level of success. James's wife might be rich, but it's her money, not his. He's still just a kept man. Lisa is an independent woman, while James is still just a teacher. Honestly, he is beneath her. Then the final auction piece was unveiled. A beautiful necklace, simple yet exquisite, fashioned like a crescent moon, composed entirely of the world's finest pink diamonds. Under the bright lights, it emanated an otherworldly brilliance. The instant I lay eyes on it, something sparked in my expression. For the first time that night, I put a bid. 1 million. Nathan quickly lifted his paddle. And just like that, the bidding battle began. The price climbed, 1 million, 2 million, soaring swiftly to 30 million. When I raised my bet to 40 million, Anna softly placed her arms around mine. She murmured, "Honey, I know you want to get this for me because it's the only thing you ever designed, but it's not worth spending that much. Don't waste your energy trying to outbid Nathan." I shook my head, smiling. I'm not bidding. Out of spite. This is a charity auction. Every dollar collected will go toward building schools and sponsoring education in poor places. I simply want to contribute as much as I can. Nathan, sensing a challenge, called out, 40,500,000. Without hesitation, I countered, 50 million. The hall fell silent. This was now the most expensive item of the evening. Lisa hesitated. She only had 50 million in liquid assets left. Nathan, on the other hand, stood up, puffing out his chest. 55 million, he announced proudly. Anna leaned in and whispered to me, "Darling, I already donated 1 billion under our names. A chunk of that was from the money you gave me earlier." I grinned and gently lowered my paddle. Then, in the calmest voice, I added, "Nathan, it's yours." Nathan's smile wavered, his face twisted, and his expression went tight. You're backing out? He sputtered, awareness settling over him. I was planning to stop after one more bid, James. You tricked me. Anna turned to him with a pleased look. Mr. Ito, you seem awfully agitated, she mused. Surely, you're not panicking because you can't afford to pay? Chapter 11. All eyes went toward Nathan. He was the one who had submitted the final bid. And now, with the price locked up, was he intending to back out? It was evident from his previous statements that he had tried to lay a trap for me, anticipating me to keep upping the price so he could humiliate me. Instead, he had outplayed himself. The visitors watched with interest, anxious to see how he would handle this issue. The auctioneer, without hesitation, struck the gavel. The sale was final. He smiled at Nathan and offered the necklace. Congratulations, Mr. Ito, for your generous contribution to charity, he declared. How would you like to make the payment? Card or check? Nathan wasn't particularly struggling with the money. He just couldn't stand the notion that I had turned the tables on him. I, on the other hand, remained entirely at peace. I had honestly meant to buy the jewelry for Anna. It was my money, and I had the right to bid whatever I liked. Nathan had been the one who persisted on outbidding me, who had compelled him. Besides, the money was going to charity. Nathan had the nerve to yell out Lisa, "Watch out!" In the short second before the glass came crashing down, I quickly sprang forward and shoved her out of the path. A thunderous crash engulfed the room as the champagne tower shattered. The jagged shards of glass rained down on me, and I felt the sting as my arm was ripped open. Blood poured quickly, soaking through my sleeve. The whole dining hall fell into startled stillness. Lisa sat on the floor where she had landed, staring up at me in disbelief. A murmur went across the throng. Maybe James really does still have feelings for her. Someone sneered. Feelings? Please. This could just be another one of his acts. I said nothing. I merely clamped a palm to my wounded arm, unwilling to even glance in Lisa's way. I hadn't done this because I still loved her. It wasn't some wild urge either. In my prior existence, Lisa had once dashed through a mob, disregarding her own safety to push me away from danger. She had ended up with a scar on her arm because of it. That was the one thing I had due her. And now I had finally returned. My obligation. Chapter 12. Lisa's emotions were in utter disarray. If James hadn't intervened just now, she would have ended herself in the hospital. Memories from her old existence filled her head. Back then, she had been the one harmed while protecting James, and he had sobbed on the spot, pledging that he would never let her suffer pain again. And he had honored his word. Even as they faced that terrible vehicle collision, he had gripped her closely, sheltering her with his own body, desperately attempting to protect her. Yet in the end, they had both perished. Somehow fate had given her a second opportunity. Lisa had determined never to live through poverty again. But at this moment, she was confronted with a stunning realization. James still loved her. Only love could motivate a guy to risk all to protect someone like that. She couldn't help but wonder, if James had only been a bit wealthier, would she ever have left him at all? I had no clue what was passing through Lisa's mind. I merely wanted to have my wounds addressed. But before I could take a stride, Nathan's lackeys surged around me, their voices laced with anger. This is all your fault, you damn jinx. Scraped your arm a little, and now you're playing the victim. Stop putting on an act and get the hell out of here. Someone shoved me hard. A couple others, stronger than the others, seized me firmly, by the arms, hauling me toward the exit as if I were some stray dog. Kick him out! Don't let this rat ruin the party! He's just trying to make people forget how he punched Nathan earlier. I violently wrenched free, my gaze darting coldly across the throng before falling on Lisa. She avoided my gaze. I knew then, whatever past we had shared, it was now entirely wiped. I started to go, but before I could take a step, a big hand clamped down on my shoulder. You hit Nathan and haven't even apologized. Where do you think you're going? Another voice growled, Teach him a lesson! The next second, a punch came flying toward me. I was going to retort when someone in the throng suddenly piped out, Hold on a second! No matter what, James just saved Lisa. Shouldn't she at least say thank you? The whispers in the audience shifted. All eyes went to Lisa. She sniffled, softly but soon calmed herself. Then, with an icy gaze, she continued, I never asked him to save me. He just likes meddling in other people's business. If he hadn't hit Nathan first, none of this would have happened. He got hurt. That's his own damn fault. The instant those words left her lips, people nodded in accord. Yeah, she's right. James totally deserved this. The man who had hit me before grabbed my hand again, mockingly smacking my own palm against my face as he sneered, What cat got your tongue? You gonna cry? Behind him, a group of sycophants had fully surrounded me, looking eager to put me in my place. Just then, someone suddenly gasped, Wait, isn't that S-City's little prince? The entire auditorium became silent for a single second. Then gossip spread like wildfire. All eyes shifted toward the staircase. Descending smoothly, escorted by a squad of security officers, was a tiny kid. The vibe in the room suddenly transformed. That's got to be the billionaire's son, someone remarked in wonder. The man who had just been mocking me now became smug. If I were you, he said, patting my shoulder mockingly, I'd get down on my knees and welcome him properly. This is the most important guest of the night. You want Lisa's love? First, be a good little dog for the young master, get some money out of him, and then go beg for her affection. I wiped the blood from my arm, my expression dark as I shot the man a warning look. Then I switched my focus onto the little lad coming. The entire room exploded with enthusiasm. People hurried to take out their phones, anxious to shoot photographs and videos of the so-called little prince. Nathan, ever the opportunist, drew Lisa nearer, putting on his best ingratiating smile. Stepping up to the youngster, he introduced himself with exaggerated excitement. Ah, young master, so handsome, clearly takes after his parents. Reaching out, he made the mistake of trying to brush the boy's hair. A security guard swiftly stepped in, pushing Nathan's hand away. And in that moment, the little child, who had been surveying the throng with a calm and aloof face, suddenly lighted up. His expression brightened into an eager, cheerful smile. Then, without hesitation, he went into a sprint. Like a small bird suddenly let free, he ran for a single person, straight toward me. I hardly had time to react when a little, warm body rushed into me, tiny arms curling around my waist. Then, in the softest, purest voice, the youngster shouted, Daddy! You're finally back! Chapter 13. The young kid who had maintained an appearance of calm sophistication now pouted with a tinge of resentment, his little fingers tightly holding mine. His large, innocent eyes sparkled with yearning. Daddy, you weren't home yesterday. I missed you so much, he complained. The sternness in my expression relaxed instantaneously. Pulling my kid into my arms, I hugged him closely, my voice subconsciously turning kind as I soothed him. Daddy was working. Didn't I tell you yesterday that I might come back a day late? But I still missed you, he mumbled, his voice tinged with a childish sob. I don't want to be away from you, not even for a day. His small voice was rich with passion, an evident attempt to garner my sympathy. I giggled, ruffling his smooth hair. All right, tomorrow is Daddy's day off. How about I take you out for a full day of fun? The instant he heard it, his eyes lighted up like stars. He gripped my leg hard and exclaimed at the top of his lungs, Daddy is the best. David loves Daddy the most. The entire dining hall was startled into stillness, especially those who had just insulted and manhandled me. Now they were gazing at me as if their brains couldn't absorb what they were witnessing. The tiny prince of S-City, clothed in a superbly fitted suit, groomed to perfection, his regal air undeniable, was calling me Daddy. Lisa's face grew deathly pale. Her lips shook as she muttered, Impossible. James can't have a child. She recalled the past. They had been together for years in their past existence, however, she had never once become pregnant. Sure, she had taken birth control occasionally, but not every single time. In her perspective, James was infertile. He just didn't have the potential to father a kid. So how could he possibly have such a lovely little boy? This had to be a trick. Nathan was the first to break the stillness, his phony smile pasted across his face as he stooped down to David's level. "Hey, little guy, are you sure you've got the right person?" he questioned with strained patience. "Look around. There are so many people here. Are you really sure your daddy is James?" His statements instantly sent off a wave of mistrust among the attendees. "Yeah, kids get confused all the time. Thank God for a second, I thought James was actually someone important. If he was rich, wouldn't the bodyguards have greeted him with respect? Look at them. They haven't even acknowledged him. James must be faking it. The kid probably just mistook him for someone else, and now he's shamelessly going along with it." One of my bodyguards clenched his fists, ready to act, but I calmly raised a hand to stop him. I didn't want my son's ears to be defiled by these people's garbage. But David, ever the curious and naughty boy, peered out from my shoulder, blinking his wide eyes as he observed the grown-ups fussing around him. Nathan, still attempting to salvage the situation, called out again, his voice dripping with phony concern. "Come on, little prince, step away from him. He's all dirty. You don't want to catch any germs, do you?" His hand was coming too close to my kid. My face darkened instantly. I seized his wrist and shoved it away, my voice ice cold. "Stay away from my son. The only thing dirty here is your mind. Unlike you, my son doesn't have trouble recognizing his own father. This farce ends now. Be a man, Nathan. At least, pretend to have some dignity." With that, I pulled David into my arms, eager to leave this ludicrous show behind. David chuckled, throwing his arms around my neck. He turned back to Nathan and with an impish grin teased, "Uncle, my eyes work. Just fine. Of course, I know who my daddy is, but do you know who your daddy is? Uncle, you're so dumb. Being dumb is contagious. Daddy, let's go." A wave of amusement went through the audience. Someone muttered, "Damn, this kid is sharp. He's only 4, but he's so articulate. If he really is James's son, it would make sense." James was the top scorer in his entrance exams back in school. But another voice quickly objected, "Nah, this is all just a setup. None of us have ever seen the Little Prince before. How do we know he's the real deal? James is just a schemer. People like him always put on a show." Amidst the heated discussion, Lisa suddenly seemed to wake from her daze. Like someone who had suddenly discovered they had left something precious behind, she hurriedly came forward and blocked my way. "James," she continued, her voice shaking with eagerness, "I know you still love me, but you don't have to go this far. You don't need to find a random child just to prove a point." She reached out as if to grab me. "Just give the boy back to his real parents. Let's talk. Aside from love, I can give you anything you want." Just as she finished speaking, a clear, melodious female voice rang out from the upper floor. "Excuse me, miss," the woman called out, her tone cool and collected. "But may I ask, what exactly do you think you're doing with my husband and my son?" Chapter 14. An attractive woman, stunningly gorgeous and with a physique that appeared carved to perfection, smoothly down the majestic staircase. Her presence alone commanded attention, conveying an air of total dominance. Beside her, the principal organizer of the event followed closely, his posture filled with awe. The woman moved right toward me, her gaze overflowing with tenderness. "You came back without telling me," she replied gently. "I would have come to pick you up." The luncheon organizer promptly went forward, addressing the startled gathering. "This is Miss Shu Anna, CEO of Sakura Group. She is also the wife of the esteemed Professor Wang, a highly respected figure in the field of education. This charity event was made possible thanks to Miss Shu's personal contribution of 50% of the funding. If any of our distinguished guests require assistance, please let me know. I will do my best to accommodate on Miss Shu's behalf." Silence. The room sank into a startled stillness. Some attendees became scarlet with excitement, amazed by the unexpected scene unfolding before them. Others were boiling with jealousy, their eyes flaming with anger. And then there were those who had humiliated and abused me previously. They suddenly stood still, their faces drained of all color, legs twitching as the truth of the situation hit them. A former classmate of mine stammered, Your wife? Is Anna the richest woman in S City? James, is this real?" Someone else gasped, "It has to be real." The event organizer himself just addressed him as Professor Wang. The Shu family is true old money elite, and James, turns out he's the most successful one among all of us. Why didn't he say anything earlier? Of course. Had they known my true identity from the start, they would never have dared to insult me, let alone try to throw me out. As the murmurs spread like wildfire, I merely smiled faintly, offering no explanations. My eyes met Anna's as she reached out, gently wrapping her arms around me. "You just came back from the rural areas, didn't you?" she asked softly. "You should have phoned. David kept wanting to go pick you up. You must be fatigued." I reassured her, my voice calm. "I didn't want you two to wait in the cold. Let's finish here quickly and head home." That was it. No one dared to question it anymore. Anyone with eyes could see. This was a real loving family. Nathan instinctively took a step forward, desperate to salvage the situation. But Anna didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, her sharp eyes landed directly on Lisa. A subtle smirk tugged at her lips as she spoke. "If I'm not mistaken, you must be my husband's ex," she said casually. "Since you're an ex, why are you still clinging to my husband in public?" She let out a soft chuckle, her tone light but dripping with mockery. "But I suppose I should thank you. After all, if not for you, not marrying him, I wouldn't have had the fortune of meeting such a wonderful man." The dinner hall collectively breathed. Anna's remarks were a slap. Lisa never saw them coming. Lisa didn't respond at first, as if her thoughts had shut down. But then her eyes shifted to mine, her look laden with shock and something near to grief. "James," she asked, her voice quivering, "is this your way of punishing me? Is this how you're getting back at me for leaving you? How much did you pay these people to act this out?" She was frantic, delusional. I let out a breath and finally broke whatever fantasy she was holding to. Holding Anna's hand securely, I spoke, firm and unwavering, making sure everyone, especially Lisa, heard me loud and clear. "This is my wife, the woman I love, the mother of my child. I won't allow anyone to insult her." I aimed my attention straight at Lisa. "Miss Liu, mind your words." Lisa's expression moved from incredulity to devastation to pure emptiness. Had this been our prior existence, I would have instantly felt horrible going to calm her, scared of giving her any misery. But in this existence, she was nothing but a ghost from a past that no longer mattered. I cradled my son in one arm and clutched my wife's hand in the other, moving to go. But Lisa wasn't done. She raced after me, her voice cracking as she yelled out in despair. "James, I don't believe you," she wailed. "Because you love me. How could you possibly love another woman?" I breathed, laying David down for a minute. Reaching inside my pocket, I drew out a sleek black card. Without hesitation, I stretched it toward her, echoing the words she once spoke to me, word for word. "I know we had something good once," I answered calmly. "But the past is over. How can you be jealous and resentful just because I found my own happiness? This is my compensation to you. Take it. Buy yourself something pleasant. Take care of yourself." Lisa's entire body stiffened. For some reason, those words hurt her more than anything else. She wanted to argue. But before she could, the banquet staff stepped forward, announcing that the charity auction was officially beginning. Once the auction ended, the evening gala would commence. Nathan walked over to Lisa, but he didn't comfort her. Instead, he coldly whispered into her ear, "Lisa, don't embarrass yourself any further. I'm the one you're with now. Stop embarrassing me in front of everyone." Chapter 15. A month had passed since the charity banquet. That morning, I received an invitation to a college reunion. I had declined many times before. Anna and I were both busy, and neither of us enjoyed being the center of attention. But this time, when I placed the invitation aside, Anna climbed into my lap, wrapping her arms around my neck. "Let's go, darling," she murmured, her warm breath brushing against my ear. "The reunion is at my mountain resort. The scenery there is lovely. We can camp and have a barbecue, and you can catch up with your old classmates." I raised an eyebrow. Anna usually wasn't interested in gatherings like this. She must have noticed my curiosity because she leaned in closer, her lips curling into a playful smile. "I just want to see if there are any more hidden love rivals," she whispered. "I need to make sure everyone knows that I am your wife." Hearing this, my heart ached slightly. For the past month, Lisa had been messaging me non-stop from different phone numbers. I never read them. Anna always told me she didn't care. But how could someone who loves you not feel even a little bit jealous? I said nothing. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a second necklace, one I had designed myself. Ironically, the only reason I had developed this skill was because of how much I had sacrificed for Lisa in my past life. But my first and second designs both belonged to Anna, because she was the only woman worthy of them. I cupped Anna's face gently. "Darling," I said, meeting her gaze, "meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm blessed to adore you, and you never need to worry. My heart belongs to one person." Her eyes shimmered with happiness. Then I added, "Let's depart tonight. That way we can get a good night's rest before the reunion." I rarely spoke sweet words, but when I did, I always meant them. Anna nodded eagerly, her joy evident. After leaving our son with the nanny, we got into the car, ready to go. David, who had been watching us, suddenly ran to the window, pouting. "Daddy, Mommy, I want to come too," he whined. Anna reached out, pinching his chubby cheeks. "If you come," she teased, "then we won't be able to have a baby sister." David froze. His small hands balled into fists, eyes bright with eagerness. "Baby sister," he muttered. Anna nodded, grinning. "So, do you want to come with us, or do you want to wait for your baby sister?" David remained silent for precisely 2 seconds before nodding violently. "Okay, I'll wait for my baby sister." Anna and I chuckled, then drove off. When we arrived for the reunion the next day, we were startled to discover many people already present. They were all from our old department and dormitories. I gripped Anna's hand tightly, presenting her to everyone. Unlike the charity banquet, there was no flattery or phony smiles, just sincere congratulations. One of my closest college pals, David, patted me on the shoulder. "You got married and didn't even tell us. Now we all have to send you late wedding gifts." Another joined in. "Damn, James, your wife is gorgeous and has such a presence. And I heard she works in research, so cool." Anna was friendly and poised, welcoming everyone with ease. Most people considered S-City's wealthiest woman as an impenetrable ice queen. But in actuality, she was vibrant, friendly, and down to earth. As we spoke, someone suddenly brought up Nathan. "Did you hear? Nathan's father, Reunited, got exposed for academic fraud. He used illegal means to obtain research funding, bribed experts, and even plagiarized other scientists' work. And Nathan was involved in all of it." There was a brief hush until someone took out a news video. Curious, I took the phone and watched. On the television, Nathan and his father seemed unkempt and shattered, their features filled with humiliation. Not only had all their research projects been annulled, but Reunited's decades of academic status had been entirely decimated. Now both of them faced legal ramifications. I had never particularly cared for Nathan, but individuals like him, those who ruined academics for selfish gain, disgusted me. They weren't simply criminals. They were parasites on society, sucking resources destined for true scientific growth. I gave the phone back, my lip twisting in disdain. "Academic fraud," I mocked. "Using research for personal profit. They deserve whatever's coming to them." Anna, sensing the tension, snuggled toward me playfully. She pouted. "Darling, don't get too worked up. I'm not like them, right?" Her tone was playful, and I knew she was attempting to soften the tension. I grinned, throwing my arm around her waist. The conversation shifted, and I took the opportunity to introduce Anna's research. Her company had always followed strict ethical guidelines. Every project aimed to contribute meaningfully to society. Unlike Nathan's father, who exploited the system, Anna upheld integrity in her work. That was something I deeply admired about her. Just as we were about to move on to dinner, a staff member approached me. Sir, someone is waiting for you outside. Frowning slightly, I excused myself and stepped outside. I wasn't surprised when I saw Lisa, but I was shocked by her appearance. She looked frail. Her once radiant beauty had faded. Her cheeks were hollow, her skin a dull shade of yellow. Her designer clothes hung loosely on her thin frame as if she had lost a significant amount of weight. Her expensive jewelry, once a sign of confidence, now only highlighted how drained and exhausted she was. The moment she saw me, her dull eyes lit up with hope. "James," she gasped, "did you see the news?" I didn't answer. She took a step closer, her countenance distraught. "It was me," she added. "I was the one who reported Nathan and his father." Chapter 16. Lisa, reported Nathan. In our prior existence, even when she was inebriated, she had always yelled out Nathan's name. She once told me that he was her white moonlight, the one she could never forget. After we were married and she realized that Nathan had affections, for her heart had fully moved away. Even though she was still in our house, her thoughts were constantly with another man. During that time, she was continuously angry, nitpicking at everything I did, comparing me to others, making me feel like the love and care I had given her had become something she resented. In this existence, I had let her go, and she had successfully ended up with her so-called white moonlight. Yet now she had turned against him. It made sense. Only someone close to Nathan would have access to such confidential information. He must have let something go, assuming that since they were about to be engaged, Lisa would keep his secrets. Instead, she had exposed him entirely. Still, I took a step back, preserving my distance. "And why are you telling me this?" I questioned. Coldly. "Do you want me to thank you on behalf of the scientific community?" Lisa attempted a bitter grin and rolled up her sleeve, displaying an old bruise on her arm. "Because Nathan hit me," she muttered. Her voice was shaking, her entire body shaky. "I never thought he would actually hit me. But that night after getting drunk, he started talking about you. He said that if I had chosen to stay with you, he would have made sure I thought you were sabotaging my career." She drew a nervous breath. "I thought you were lying before, but now I know. In our last life, it really was Nathan who fed me. Those lies." She dried her tears with shaky fingers. "I confronted him about it, demanding to know why he tried to ruin us. And do you know what he did?" She let out a choking sob. "He laughed. He hit me. He called me pathetic." Her voice cracked entirely. She dried her tears with shaking fingers. "He said I was the one who dumped you, that I was the one who climbed into his bed, that it had nothing to do with him." Her voice cracked utterly. She had always imagined she was unique to Nathan. But in the end, he had considered her as nothing more than a fleeting entertainment. Tears flowed down her face as she recalled the things people had said her after the charity banquet. Lisa, an old friend, had remarked, "You let go of the one person in this world who actually loved you." Another had told her the truth. "Nathan never loved you. He chased you because of a bet with his dorm mates. He used to brag that during the graduation ball, you were the one who seduced him. He thought you were nice enough in bed, so he assumed he'd keep you around as a toy. Later, when your career took off, that's when he started flaunting you. He never regarded you as his love. He saw you as his prize." That was when Lisa had finally understood the truth. She had lost something valuable. She had inquired around about James's job. Even though he was merely a teacher, his degree of competence was unrivaled. Schools battled over him, offering contracts of tens of millions. But James had never cared about riches. He had committed all to education, and in their last existence, he had given all of that for her. James's affection had been devoted and sincere. Now standing in front of him, she was filled with anguish. She wanted to say something, anything to change things. But then she noticed Anna going outside. And just like that, Lisa's despair morphed into wild disobedience. She couldn't give up. So, in a last-ditch attempt, she abruptly surged forward and wrapped her arms securely around me. Then, in a voice loud enough for Anna to hear, she said, "James, I was your first woman. You can't abandon me." She leaned forward, her lips practically touching my ear. You used to love kissing that little mole on my waist. Do you remember? Her voice was oozing with sensuous, shameless closeness. My gut twisted with loathing, the sheer chutzpah of it. She was bringing up things from our old existence, a life that no longer existed, a love that has died. In this life, the only lady I had ever touched was Anna. Before I could shove Lisa away, Anna's voice rang out. Her tone was quiet, so calm it was unnerving. She stared Lisa square in the eye and questioned, "Lisa, are you pregnant? Is that why you're clinging to my husband? Because you want him to take responsibility for someone else's child?" Chapter 17. Anna's remarks made Lisa's face grow pale. Her lips squeezed tightly together, reluctant to answer. Seizing. The moment, I moved her away, then dusted off the regions where she had touched me as if she had dirtied my suit. Turning to Anna, I started to explain, but before I could say anything, Lisa lost control entirely. "What are you so proud of?" she yelled. "Your husband once loved me enough to die for me. He's always had me in his heart. I was his first love, his white moonlight. The moment he gets tired of you, he'll come running back to me." She knew her words would unsettle Anna, would sow a seed of doubt. But in Anna's view, Lisa was nothing more than a needy child throwing a tantrum. She simply didn't care about the past. It was simply that, the past. And more significantly, she had perfect faith in me. Smirking, Anna said, "I only believe my husband. Stop dreaming. You had your chance and you threw it away. Now that he's doing well, you think you can just come back and take what's his? The world doesn't work that way." Then, wrapping her arms tightly around mine, she tilted her head and playfully asked, "Tell me, dear husband, is what she's saying true?" I shook my head immediately, my eyes filled with certainty. "Anna, what are you so proud of?" she said, her voice shaking with desperation. "You think you're better than me because you're rich? Because you're the wife of a professor? But you're just a gold digger. You're nothing but a trophy wife. You don't deserve him." Anna's brows wrinkled. She didn't believe in things like past lives, but seeing Lisa this out of control, she groaned and walked forward, halting her. "Have some dignity," she remarked gently. "The past is gone. There's no medicine for regret." I stepped forward, took Anna's hand, and looked Lisa straight in the eye. "I stopped loving you a long time ago," I said firmly. "You were the one who felt love might be better with another guy. You decided to toss away my affection. I don't regret losing you. The past is over. Let's not bring it up again. From now on, we are strangers." Then, without another word, I turned around and walked away with Anna. No matter how much Lisa called after me, I didn't look back. She had made her choice, and I had made mine. Lisa collapsed in the corner, sobbing, unable to enter the venue, as the security guard stopped her. But as she sat there alone, she made a desperate vow to herself. This time, no matter what, she wouldn't let me go. A week later, my name was all over the headlines. Lisa had participated in an international jewelry competition and won first place with her new collection, named A Lifetime of Love. At the award ceremony, she publicly confessed to me. I was in school when I found out. A group of parents approached me hesitantly. "Professor Wang, is it true? Did you actually leave your wife for that jewelry designer?" The internet was in an uproar. Lisa had romanticized our story, making it sound like an epic love story that had been tragically cut short. But I felt nothing, except disgust. You only regret after losing something. What was the point now? I was furious. Just as I was about to call Lisa to demand she stop this nonsense, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was anxious. "Hello, are you Miss Liu's boyfriend?" I froze. "I'm not." The caller ignored my response. "This is S City First People's Hospital. She got in a vehicle accident and she miscarried. Please come fast." I frowned. "You have the incorrect guy. I'm not—" But then the nurse's voice lowered. "She was pregnant," she whispered. "But during surgery, we found something else. We just got the biopsy findings. Miss Liu has late-stage uterine cancer." Chapter 18. I didn't go to the hospital. Instead, I contacted Lisa's parents and told them to be by her side. At the same time, I reached out to a former classmate who worked in digital media, ensuring that the trending news about her public confession was suppressed. That afternoon, my phone rang. Lisa's voice was weak. "James, can I see you one last time?" My response was cold. "I've already made everything plain," I said plainly. "I let go of the past a long time ago. There's nothing left for you to hold on to." A violent coughing spasm stopped me short. Her breathing was heavy, as if she could scarcely talk. "I knew I was unwell," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But when I found out I was pregnant, I convinced myself that the baby was yours. I disliked the wrong guy, James. I always wanted to have a kid with you. But Nathan lied to me. He destroyed our marriage." My voice remained indifferent. "No, you destroyed our marriage, with your doubt and your infidelity." A choked sob came from the other end of the line. "But now the baby is gone, and I'm dying too." "George, do you think when I die I'll wake up in our past life again? Do you believe I'll return to that day when we were going to get divorced? Maybe this time I'll stop you. Maybe this time I'll hang on to you and we can stay together. Because I adore you. You were the first person I ever loved. Even with my hardened heart, I couldn't deny the hurt of her words. For a long while, I said nothing. Then eventually, I spoke. "You should go somewhere with better medical treatment. Fight for your life. Don't give up." "I've said these words to you before." She let out a broken laugh, her voice trembling. "I'll wait for you, James. If you don't come, I won't close my eyes." I ended the call. At that moment, a student walked into my office to deliver some documents. For a brief second, my mind wandered back to my first day at university, the freshman ceremony. Lisa had stood beside me as one of the student representatives, her high ponytail swaying as she smiled brilliantly, a ray of sunshine in human form. Now that once radiant flower was withering away. I remembered how flustered she had been when I confessed to her, how I had clumsily played a song on my guitar, and how she had shyly nodded. I had been ecstatic. We had been so in love. And yet, love had turned to resentment. If not for the car accident that gave us a second chance, we would have died in our past life, carrying nothing but hatred for each other. I sighed. Perhaps it was time to put an end to it. On my way to the hospital, I stopped by a market to buy Anna and David's favorite ingredients, knowing they'd be waiting for me at home. When I arrived at Lisa's hospital room, I found her looking even thinner than before. She had lost all. The beauty she once prided herself on, her delicate features now frail and ghostly. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with tears, but they also brightened with hope. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I knew you'd come. You could never fully forsake me. You still care about me. You're just furious because you love me too much." With that, she clutched the blanket weakly. "I was wrong before. Everything was my fault. But I just want you to know, I never regretted being with you. You always treated me like a princess. No one has ever loved me the way you did." Her gaze was feverish now. "James, I know I made errors, but please, can't we start over? I promise I'll do better. I'll combat the sickness. I won't let them remove my uterus, because I want to have a kid with you. I love you, James." I exhaled slowly, placing the bag of fruit I had brought onto the table. Then, looking directly into her desperate eyes, I crushed her last shred of hope. "Lisa," I whispered quietly, "the moment you walked away from me after we were reborn, our relationship ended." Chapter 19. My stance stayed steadfast. I have a family now, a wife and a child I love dearly. So from now on, don't say these things again. Lisa shook her head in astonishment. "No, we never officially broke up. How could all those years of love just disappear? I know you're angry at me, James, but don't be. I've admitted my mistakes. You used to hate seeing me cry. Why won't you forgive me now?" I remained expressionless as I moved my hand away from hers. "You have late-stage cancer. Even if we were just ordinary friends, I would have still come to see you. If my presence made you think I still have feelings for you, then I apologize. But your parents will take care of you, and I won't be staying any longer. In our past life, I desperately tried to hold on to our marriage. That was the most foolish thing I ever did. I should have let you go sooner. Now I no longer love you, and I hope you stop living in the past. I didn't tell her the truth. That Lisa had not just lost me. She had also lost Nathan's affection. Two men, both of whom had formerly loved her profoundly, and now she deserved neither. Her parents nodded in understanding. Later, I learned that Lisa was transported to a larger hospital for treatment. Her uterus was removed, and she could live. Then, one snowy night, my phone rang. It was Lisa's mother. Her voice was soft. James, Lisa. She paused, and in a weak voice, she murmured, "She's fading fast. Can you come? See her?" For a long time, I said nothing. Finally, my voice raspy, I murmured, "All right." Chapter 20. When I hung up the phone, I attempted to recollect the moments of love I had enjoyed with Lisa in my prior life. But to my surprise, I couldn't recall anything at all. Time had actually dimmed everything. Even love might escape into the wide river of time. When I saw Lisa again, she was practically unrecognizable. Her body had shrunk to just skin and bones. Her cheekbones protruded sharply, her once beautiful face now lifeless and depressed. She sat near the window, looking blankly outdoors. Snowflakes swirled in the wind, and she murmured absently, "It's snowing." It was only when I called her name that her dull eyes regained a flicker of light. But the moment was fleeting. She quickly looked away, a sorrowful expression crossing her face. "James," she whispered, "I must look so ugly now. You would never love me like this." I said nothing. She seemed to gather some strength, her voice barely above a whisper. She spoke endlessly, as if afraid she wouldn't get another chance. "James, I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I was too insecure back then. I was so determined to succeed, so concerned with following my dream of being a jewelry designer. I never paused to think about how much you sacrificed for me. Maybe this is karma. Maybe I deserve this." She took a shaky breath. Then she asked, "James, do you believe we'll have another opportunity to live again?" Her eyes filled with hope, her fingers grasping the thin blanket as if hanging onto her last scrap of trust. "If we do, I'll love you properly this time. I'll treasure you. You'll pick me, won't you?" Her voice was so small, so desperate, but I shattered her fantasy with the truth. I shook my head. "No, Lisa. There won't be another chance. Heaven already handed you one. And everything that happened was your decision. A person who never knows how to be grateful will never find true happiness, even if they were reborn 1,000 times." Her fragile body trembled. She had no more tears left to cry. "No chance," she murmured. "I really know my mistakes now. Why can't you just say that it's okay?" My answer was firm. "Because it's not okay. I never visited Lisa again. Because I had something far more essential to protect. My present, my family, my bliss." A few months later, spring arrived. I was granted the opportunity to study abroad in the United States for 3 months. Though delighted, the prospect of being separated from Anna and David made my heart hurt. But the instant I arrived at the airport, I was startled, because there, standing among the crowd, was Anna carrying David in her arms. David held a bunch of flowers, his small face smiling with glee. "Daddy, you're finally here!" I ran forward, grabbing them both into a tight embrace. Anna chuckled playfully, mocking me. "Surprised, aren't you, darling?" she murmured, her eyes twinkling. "How could I let you come here alone? No way. We're family. We're supposed to be together." She kissed my cheek. "So, are you happy?" I pulled her in closer, my heart bursting. "Anna," I whispered, I'm so happy. I love you. During those months in the US, we explored new areas, took innumerable photographs, and created memorable experiences. It was the happiest period of my life. Until one day during a brief trip, I received news. Lisa had passed away. Not long after, a report arrived from the jail institution. Nathan had taken his own life. For a minute, I was lost in contemplation. Then I turned and saw two people racing at me. One little, one huge. "Daddy! Darling!" I beamed, opened my arms wide, and welcomed them into a future that was truly mine.